Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get going. So I'd like to welcome everyone here. It's nice to see such a packed council chambers. Should warm this room up a lot. I'd like to welcome everyone here and wish each and every one of you a happy new year, and to members of council as we get going on another, our second year starting in here. So at this time, I'd like to welcome you to the Municipality of Thames Centre regularly scheduled meeting. The date is Monday, January the 15th, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. We're meeting in the municipal office, council chambers at 4305 Hamilton Road in the village of Dorchester. And I would like to call this meeting to order. I have not been informed that there are any additions to the agenda, so I'll ask council if there is any disclosure of pecuniary interest that they would like to make at this time or the nature thereof. Okay, seeing none, I actually do have a few announcements, so bear with me tonight. First and foremost, although it's been a little bit of time coming, I'm happy to let everyone know that the early on program will be soon available at River Heights Public School. The daycare center is there and pretty much full. I've been informed that there is they are in the process of recruiting someone to be in charge of that facility. And they are hoping to have everything open during the month of February. And at some time there may be an announcement of of something more official in terms of an open house. In the meantime, these early on programs are available in both municipalities, Thorndale and Dorchester, at the libraries. And for the residents of Thorndale primarily, I'd like to remind everyone that there is a public information center open house taking place at the Lions Community Center in Thorndale on Thursday, the 25th of January, beginning at 5 p.m. and running through until 7 for anyone wanting to learn anything more about the potential expansion of the wastewater treatment plant there. All interested parties are encouraged to attend, and further details are available on both the municipal website and our Facebook page. One other thing, and this is certainly last but not least, is that this coming Monday, the 22nd of January, Thorndale and Dorchester are once again hosting the provincial curling championship. So we encourage everyone to come out. The last event that they had here was a tremendous success. So we're looking to repeat that. And I think that is it. So we'll move on to presentations and delegations. The first one being from Mr. Podeswa regarding the wind turbines in Thames Centre. And just as a little reminder, Mr. Podeswa will be making the presentation. And since this is not a public meeting, that is it. So he will have his opportunity before we turn it over to council. Okay, so Mr. Podeswa, whenever you're ready.
Councilors, administrators, guests, neighbors, friends. Okay. My background, let you know. A Beal Tech graduate in electrical and electronics, Fanshawe electric technician, competitive math courses all along the way, 32 years of Bell Canada, past president Optimus in Dorchester, Dorchester Legion member, both creating the biggest fundraisers that they've ever had, and it's still existing. I'm going to ask a question. Think about this. What is torque? I'm going to come to that after. Advantages of wind turbines, profit for the investors, producer of electrical energy. Somehow the disadvantages outweigh. Do landowners really read their contract before they sign it. I understand that there is a couple that have signed in our area. However, I'm not sure if they're gonna get permits or not, because there's a governing body, we're not sure who approves that. Okay, you got that in mind? You have a loan on your property, forget it. You can't borrow on your property, there's a lien on it. These companies put a lien on your property. Read the fine print. Okay? Okay, so try to get a mortgage on your property with a lien on it. If companies are loaded with lawyers, they have lawyers that just eat up any other lawyer around. They got the government in their pocket. Underground effect on water wells. This is my main topic. I don't mind somebody making a buck, but if it's gonna affect my underground water supply that I've enjoyed for 50 years in Thames Center, I want to be compensated for that. In Chatham, right now, they said to the landowners, they said, it's up to you, it's your dime. You pay $50,000 each and you can have a pipeline from Lake Erie now. They've tested for sediment and water. And they said, this is potable water, but they haven't tested for sediment like shale, sand, calcium, iron, metals, even gas, because gas is, you may not know, it goes along shale, gas gets into their water supply. Are these power companies going to fix my damage? Who are the power companies? Where does the money go? 30 cents to 80 cents per kilowatt hour. Do you know what a kilowatt hour is? I'm sure nobody really knows how many kilowatts they use in their house today. I use 600 a year. So that's costing me $600 in hydro a year. I'm pretty conservative. That $600 does not relate to the delivery charges that I pay. That's another 600. Okay. That wind generator that they're talking about putting up there is 4,000 megawatts. That's 4 million watts. I got a 1 watt bulb here, the one you're finding in your taillight. And I got a demonstration here that I could put on a bench for you, that I've done this when I was 12 years old. I put a generator on a bench with a bicycle pedal on that generator. I could not turn that generator by hand. It was so much power to make this light bulb work. So try that on a bench if you got a 12-volt generator around. So profit, where does the money go? Florida power companies own these out there west of Strathroy. Samsung, other companies, money's going offshore. So this subsidized money that the Ontario government is paying for, it's going offshore. Nothing is retaining here. There's not one wind turbine in Florida, not one. And yet they got them all up here. So moving on. What's the difference between a scam and good business? All right. Here's the way these companies operate. The salespeople come along to you and say, oh, John Podeswa signed up for one of these. Why don't you? Oh, John Podeswa. Well, I better sign up too. John Podeswa was never approached. So here it is. A company like Samsung comes along, okay, says, okay, we're going to start up a company. We're going to build this big generator, 300 foot high, nothing that the Thames Center Fire Department can fight because it's too high. They won't put up 3-story building or higher here in Dorchester because we don't have the firefighting equipment. But these, they go up. Okay, so let's start off with Samsung. They start up with a company, ABC. They put up this big tower. Okay, now my water supply has got sediment. Oh, I better go and sue. Okay, that company's gone. So now it's a big electric company. Okay, they take over. Okay, they're gone. World Power, gone. Global Energy, gone. So all these companies, they disappear. And what's that? The difference between that and a grandmother scam is, on a grandmother scam, okay, this is the RCMP calling. Your little Johnny's in jail and we need $10,000. Can you send that by Bitcoin? Send it to www.something.com. Okay. I've been in a conference with the city police that look after scams like the grandmother scam. And they said, okay, they've found out where this website is. That website's disappeared, it's gone. But the money's gone too. However, these people come along and say, here's $20,000 to $40,000 to the landowners. Okay, go ahead, put your wind turbine up. Okay, so calculate it, do the math. 1 hour, they can supply my electricity for a month in 1 hour. 10 hours a day, how much electricity is that? They're getting paid between 30 cents to 80 cents per kilowatt. So over a year, there's $1 million for them to 2 million to however much wind they can produce to hydro. So, okay, I'm pretty good with math. Why wouldn't the farmers say, gosh, you know something, I'd like to buy another farm, but there's no farms for sale. I got $1 million here. Why don't I pay $1 million? And I can really make $1 million a year. Okay, just do the math. Okay, so okay, these, I'm thinking positive too. Okay, don't get me wrong. I don't mind somebody making a buck, but when they're giving you $40,000 a year, do the math. You're getting paid about a penny out of every dollar they make, if that. So, okay. The federal government has awarded $20 million to Ducks Unlimited just this past year. Okay. So then they're the same body that, oh, we're going to put up these windmills all along Lake Erie so the migration birds will be dead. As you guys know, I like to tell a good joke, but this is not a joke. Okay. There is something we can do. We can approach the government. There's something called NIMBY, N-I-M-B-Y, not in my backyard. So council can be pressured to say, okay, if the landowners that are nearby where there's a windmill can't do anything about it, and I'll address this one to Tom. Okay, he's involved with Bonnie Shackleton. I think you were involved with that one where she did mention your name, where the municipality turned down a grow up next to her. She has health issues. She could not stand it. However, through the bureaucracy, she was able to get a hold of guys like Tom, George Finch, and so on, people that we know here, and said, hey, let's put the pressure on the municipality and let's get this marijuana grow up shut down next door to her because she has a health issue and the name is about that long. So, okay, let me talk about torque. Again, how much torque does it take up there? If I told you how much it took on 1 watt to do that, what about 4,000 watts? How much torque is that? No problem. We'll put 40 feet of concrete down there and that'll hold that tower up. So that torque, it'll affect nothing. It'll affect everything in the ground, underground. And another 40 feet below that is my well water supply. And guess what? I'm going to start getting sediment. So I got a lot more here, but I only got 10 minutes. So I'm going to pass this on over to council now.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Does council have any questions or comments regarding Mr. Podeswa's presentation? Councillor Heeman.
Sure. Thank you for that presentation, and it was very well thought out and a lot of pertinent examples. I'm not a complete stranger to the Green Energy Act. At university, one of my first papers in an agriculture class was on the Green Energy Act and how it stripped individuals and communities of any rights to consultation. My family in Huron County was approached on the power lines, and we refused to sign. And because of that, we don't have a big pole in the middle of our farm, so we can still farm it. So I think that there are a lot of concerns. You mentioned birds. I think bats are also a big concern in certain areas. Bats are going extinct, and they're being correlated to wind farms. We recall when these things happened in the McGinty years, there was also a lot of gas power plants that needed to be created because these things don't run all the time. And it requires more carbon fuel to be burned in order to have a sustainable approach. So I'm very sympathetic to the concerns raised. And it's my understanding that the Green Energy Act has been repealed. And so the lack of ability for municipalities to be willing or unwilling hosts has changed. But we're still getting consultation as to what that means, what our abilities are under the new framework. So that this is very timely, and I don't think we would have had such a proactive approach if it wasn't for yourself bringing this to our attention. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heyman. Does anyone else wish to ask a question or make a comment regarding this particular item? Right. Okay. As Councillor Heyman has indicated, the municipality through the day has been trying to find out just exactly what areas of responsibility are in terms of the provincial government, the municipal government, and we haven't completely had an answer to that. So at this point, Mr. Pedeswa, I will ask council for a recommendation to receive your report as a delegation to council this evening. And it may be a little bit of a waiting game. So if I could have someone move a motion to receive the delegation and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor, Deputy Mayor Smybert, and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Or any comments? Tom, you looked as if you were waiting to say something.
Further comment, I think one of the main themes that I've seen in municipal government is that when we have strong neighbors and strong relationships, as you know, is displayed by everyone showing up here tonight, that's our first line of defense in keeping a civil environment and a peaceful place to live. So I think John said it succinctly that if you get approached, it's very simple. They cannot have this development if they don't have willing landowners. So I think that's something to consider and to communicate to your friends and family.
Excuse me, just on, just on a point of order in terms of the actual procedure here this evening. It's designed only for the delegation to speak. It's not a question and answer because it hasn't been slated as a public meeting. I do know, though, and I appreciate Councillor Heeman's comments. I also do know that there are companies running around, trying to solicit some support from people. So I guess what I'm asking you for is a little bit of indulgence until we find out sort of all the letter of the law, where our jurisdictions lie. But I know that the members of council are more than happy to understand how the neighbors are feeling about this. And I know that we've all heard about it in other jurisdictions such as Bruce County and Huron County, as you've alluded to. So at that point, I'd like to thank you all for your support here tonight and for your comments. And it's not going unnoticed. So we're back to the motion moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. So I'm going to ask all in favor of the motion. Okay, that passes. And thank you so much, John, for all the work you've put in, and to everybody here who's come in support of this issue. It's great to see you all out. Thank you. So council, we're just going to allow a minute or two more just for an opportunity for the folks to clear the chambers before we move on. So we'll ask your indulgence. Okay.
Not a problem.
Great opportunity.
It's good for participation. It's great participation. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yes.
A lot of people small doors.
Mhm. Echoes.
Okay, council, I think we can start again because we have another delegation and I don't want to keep you here till midnight, which I'm sure you would appreciate. Okay. So the next item on the agenda for those following is 5.2, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority 2024 draft budget. And Tracy Annette and Brian Petrie of Mayor of Ingersoll to present on behalf of the UTRCA. So whenever you're ready to go.
Thank you, Mayor McMillan. And also wanted to point out that Councillor Heeman is a representative of our
Yes, he
board
is.
acting on behalf of the municipality. So we'll just jump right in. PDF, I'll wait for it to be up on screen. And we'll move into our presentation materials, but also included in your agenda package tonight was kind of an overview of our budget as well as our full budget package. So. Okay, so move on here. Hopefully this works there. Great. Oops, I jumped ahead one slide. Sorry about that. Oh, the second slide there. It does not seem to be there. Anyway, I was just going to provide a little bit of an overview of our watershed. Again, our goal is to inspire a healthy environment, and our programs and services reflect our organization's goal to bring as much value into our watershed and environmental programming as possible. So we do that by leveraging our municipal investment, entering into partnerships wherever we can, and provide that return on investment. So certainly, this is something that not only benefits Thames Center, but all of our watershed municipalities. So over here, you can see the bit of a budget overview. This is showing up a little bit different. Yeah, I think this is the budget package and not the presentation material. So.
I'm sorry, we've got a 14-page report. That's the one you're referring to? Inspiring Healthy Environment, which is your watershed map that you've just gone through. Okay,
That's correct.
all right. The next one we have is the budget overview.
Yes, the budget overview, just providing a little bit, what I'll be speaking to tonight, our overview, our drivers of our budget, impacts to our 2024 budget, highly really about the legislative changes that are occurring, dealing with our historical context and our operating environment, and a bit about capital projects. On the right-hand side of that slide, it speaks to kind of our development schedule. So we started developing our budget back in August, presented our draft budget to our board in October, and then since that time, having municipal input sessions and discussions with our member municipalities, especially about our capital projects. And then in January, our board will be reviewing at the end of the month kind of comments that we've received so far, and then in February, consideration at our annual general meeting. So with the next slide, you'll see kind of an overview of, oh, great, I can do that now. Thanks. Oh. Really just the highlight of the impacts of our 2024 budget. This is included as well in the overview package, a bit of a graphic to highlight some of those challenges that we're facing, but I'll be going through the detail in the next few slides. So with the legislative changes, just wanted to highlight that there hasn't been additional funding from the province to undertake this additional work, but through our mandatory programs and services regulation, Ontario Reg 68621, we have to complete a number of deliverables by the end of 2024. These relate to our operation and asset management plans for our water and erosion control infrastructure in the Upper Thames watershed. We have significant infrastructure in that regard. Undertaking ice management plans, developing a land management strategy that also involves consultation with the public. Again, in our watershed, we have over 300 parcels of land. Undertaking an inventory that identifies the uses on those lands. And with that mandatory programs and services regulation, we're also to identify lands that may be able to be developed. Again, that's part of that regulation. We also have to identify our land acquisition and disposition policies, and then also complete a watershed-based resource management strategy. Again, that involves public consultation. As well, under legislative changes, I think all municipalities are facing the more homes built faster and more homes for everyone under the various bills that have been passed. We have to meet those service delivery standards for planning and development reviews, timelines to expedite the approvals process. And I know we're all facing those challenges, certainly in this area of the province where we're seeing tremendous growth. So we need to undertake those programs, additional staffing to meet that demand, but also to have some support through updating our hazard mapping processes. So under the Conservation Authorities Act, we are to regulate all hazard mapping, whether they be erosion hazards or our flood modeling and mapping in that regard. And having up-to-date information ensures that any new development is kept safe from those hazard areas. So our budget impacts are significant in the area of 1.5 million this year. We're also faced with an operating environment dealing with inflation. We also staff retention and compensation. We undertook a comprehensive review in 2022, and this year will be our first full year of implementation. In 2023, we had a freeze on any development charges related to planning and development applications. We were just notified in December before the break that freeze has continued through 2024. So while we have to increase our service delivery standards, there's no mechanisms to increase the cost recovery in that way. Also increase growth demands, but not only in planning and development applications, but as the slide shows on the right, gives you a good photo of, pictures 1,000 words, is around our lands. This is in Pittock and Woodstock. We're seeing significant growth pressures. And also the same is happening in London at our property at Fanshawe. There's a plan of subdivision to the north of our driveway and an industrial plan of subdivision to the south. And with that comes additional easement needs, access requests, but also encroachment when we do have development like you're seeing in Woodstock onto our lands, dealing with trespassing, but also dealing with some of the challenges that we're finding with encampment encampments and those that are unhoused. So certainly different operating environment that we've been dealing with in the last 10 years. Again, that increase of use within CA-owned lands that I've just mentioned, but also since the pandemic. Many discovered our lands during that time and are getting out and enjoying those passive recreational uses. But with that comes more operational needs to make sure we're reducing our liability, making sure we're addressing hazard trees and things like garbage pickup as well. As municipalities have also experienced significant capital costs are increasing too. I've got an example on another slide. Our historical impacts, for those that may not be aware, I know others have been exposed to conservation authorities in the past, but certainly the transfer payment that we receive from the province for flood and erosion control programs, it was frozen in the mid-90s. And then in 2019, that payment was reduced by 50%. So with that program, we call it Section 39. It covers less than 13% of our program costs with regards to our hazard management programs. We've always operated in an environment where we've tried to keep the levy contributions from our municipalities depressed and reduced. Certainly that's led to reduced overall reserves, especially in these areas of our flood and erosion control structures and land management. Also through COVID, we did not have an opportunity to access the federal wage subsidies that were available to many during that time. We did not meet the qualifications. So during the time, some of our reserves to continue our activities were depleted too. As noted in the last slide, our capital projects, we're seeing significant increases. Certainly with some projects where there's special benefiting municipalities such as St. Mary's with their flood wall and Mitchell Dam up in West Perth, but also in London through West London Dyke, they're receiving even bigger pieces of that as special benefiting. But with all of our infrastructure, it's aging. Most of our flood and erosion control infrastructure was built in the mid to late 50s, early 60s. So as time has progressed, that infrastructure is aging. We want to make sure that we're maintaining it and keeping it in a status of good repair or state of good repair to make sure that there's an increased cost in the long run. In some cases, our project proposals have doubled the forecasted costs. So I know some projects, municipalities are facing the same challenges. As I presented this previously to this council, when dealing with our categorization of programs and services, we are now required to have our mandatory Category 1 programs where those programs can be funded through municipal levy, non-mandatory, which are our Category 2 programs that are delivered on request by the municipality to provide a service and technical expertise on their behalf, the risk management services under drinking water source protection as an example. And then our other programs that are watershed wide, where certainly we want to have agreements with our municipalities to cost apportion those. In that case, those program areas, we have been able to get significant grants and other funding arrangements to help support those. But the majority of our requests is through our Category 1 and those mandatory requirements. So with the next slide, I can also included with your package is the different funding sources that come from the different program areas. Category 1, those mandatory requirements is the biggest piece of the pie that you see there. Even then, about 60% is through municipal levy. We are able to self-generate a significant portion of those other amounts and self-generated also through federal and provincial grants and contracts that are shown in the dark green. We're going out now requesting and doing funding applications to get additional grants where we can. The challenge is that sometimes there isn't as many grants available for things that are deemed mandatory. Our Category 2 programs, again, it's shown proportionally, are cost recoverable. And then our Category 3 programs are kind of divided into two different areas. Ones that we have cost apportioning agreements with. Again, we're able to do a tremendous amount through self-generated revenue in the light green and then in the dark green through grant programs that we access. And then our other Category 3 programs are through our campground operations and they're entirely self-funded. With Thames Center, the municipal contributions that are in our budget request in the draft. Our general distribution levy of 204,000 is shown. Special benefiting levy in the neighborhood of just over 5,700 because of the Dorchester Mill Pond and Dorchester CA areas. That's kind of the operation and maintenance needs for those areas. In some years, we'll be doing updated dam safety reviews and things like that, but I think that's at least a year off for the Mill Pond, or sorry, Dorchester CA. In total, it's around 209,805. And then the Category 3 draft apportionment agreement that has been signed was 19,439. I note that's less than what was initially proposed back when the draft agreement was signed. It was around 25,000 at that time. Just to end, a few final key messages. Certainly the largest impact for 2024 have been tied to the legislative changes, and no new provincial funding has been provided to offset these requirements. We certainly have additional budget increases that are tied to both operating and capital expenses, again, with that aging infrastructure that we want to maintain, and also recognizing that maintenance costs are significantly higher now. We're trying to mitigate those impacts as much as possible, especially to the municipal levy, by applying our program revenues to offset costs of mandated programs and looking for different grant and eligible partnerships to reduce those costs. But I just wanted to give an opportunity to ask questions, but certainly an opportunity to our chair, Mayor Petrie, to add some additional comments.
Yes, thank you. I want to say that we have a great board, and it was very cognizant of what we're asking for municipalities. We know it's a very significant increase, but really this all started in 2019 with changes to the Conservation Act, and we've really seen those impacts come through. It all started as something that was positioned to make sure that it was a more cost-effective model, and the conservation authorities were doing what was mandated. Unfortunately, I feel that the government did not have a strong understanding of what those systems were, and now we're here and we're seeing those significant cost increases being passed on to municipalities through rate freezes, through changes in how we do our funding, Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. Those have led to significant staffing challenges, even trying to track who's doing those jobs. So the board had a very difficult decision this year, but I can certainly say that these changes that we're seeing are being driven by the province, and they're certainly not within our purview to be able to change. The legislative requirements by the end of 2024 are mandatory, and so there is no ability to stretch that work out and maybe save dollars. We have to do it this year. It has to be done, and so it's a challenge that staff will be busy doing all year to try to meet that goal. So I would like to say that this is the only year, but we are mandated to have these programs such as asset management plans, and so those will have to be funded as well. So we will see. We're still waiting on significant changes through policy that was promised from the the provincial government last year. We're still waiting on those changes, so we'll see how they are brought out. Hopefully, we can get back to some stability within our operations and keep future increases sustainable.
Thank you. So any questions from councillor to either member of the delegation? Oh, sorry. I didn't look the wrong right there. Councillor Lockie, go ahead.
Of course, I'm the dollars person. I got to ask some questions. Through your worship, to Tracy in it. So there was a comment about some of the proposals that they've doubled the forecasted cost. So have we done anything to try to mitigate that? Like maybe, I don't know, change the scope of projects or look at alternative vendors or other ways to mitigate?
Yes, thank you through the mayor to Councillor Lockie. The example is related to a dam safety review. And with those dam safety reviews, those are very much prescribed, what's required. One of the examples that I provided was for one of our high-risk structures. We undertook a review just last year for Fanshawe Reservoir. Needed to do the update for Wildwood. Wildwood is a much smaller structure, not as complex as Fanshawe. And even then, the cost estimate had nearly doubled. So, you know, we're trying to, but I think in this time, it's been really challenging. The other piece of it that I don't know if it was realized or not at the time is that most CAs are required to do these updates for the operational plans all at the same time. So it means that there isn't as many consultants able to do the work with that expertise. So it's making it very much more competitive, and without having an opportunity to spread things out, it's just compounding the problem, unfortunately.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Smyburn.
I guess it's not a question as much as a comment, and just wanted to let you know that Thames Center values our Conservation Authority lands, and we really do truly value all the good work that you're doing. We understand the challenges. I think we're seeing that with other organizations and associations as well. That's kind of like a typically what you're seeing with the provincial government, right? Downloading responsibilities, but not coming forward with costs to help financially with those. So I just wanted to say, I know it's hard coming to a municipality asking for more money. And we're not always happy to pay more, but seeing all of the good work that you do, I know that I know you're doing all that you can in these challenging times. So thank you.
I know it wasn't a question, but if I could add something to that, it is, this is true case of downloading to our member partners. We are, when it comes to rate freezes, we are looking to have more cost recovery in those. We're currently at 50%, and the board wants to go higher, but we just can't do that. And so the increase in cost for staffing cannot be passed on for demand to be paid for growth, to pay for growth. It has to come back. And so it's a significant challenge. We've heard from other delegations, you know, that they're interested in talking to the province. So feel free to advocate on our behalf and your behalf to your representatives to let them know that we can provide the facts and figures. It is true downloading of those costs to our member municipalities because the province is choosing not to pay.
Thank you. Councillor Heeman.
If I may add to that, I believe that it's very similar situation at least with development charges. I think it's pretty much 1-to-1 right there. The goal is to get more affordable housing. The result is increased costs on the average taxpayer to subsidize those new homes. And just to add to, I know there has been a lot of work in Thames Center by the Conservation Authority recently, and with the Dorchester CA, the new bridge and the new trail works, the fishing platform and the mill pond. And I think recreation master, we've identified working more closely on the mill pond as a priority. And personally, as someone from the north part of the township, I really value Fanshawe Conservation Authority, which kind of in our bound. So I think there would be interesting opportunities together there.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. Any other comments? Councillor Lockie.
Through your worship, just another question regarding the increases. And this is more for my understanding, do we set aside reserves for replacing infrastructure?
Yes, if I can, through your worship. Depending on the municipality. In some cases, we have municipalities that we have a specified reserve for each structure to build up. I'll call it a kitty, but a specified reserve. So when there are those things like dam safety reviews, then there's some money there to offset that, not getting a lump sum payment all at once. I can't recall off the top of my head what Thames Center does because it varies between each municipality. So, but that's something I can get back to you on. Yes, I understand what you're saying through the mayor. We have not finalized a multi-year budget for our operating expenses. We certainly do that for capital. Our capital expenditures, we have a 20-year plan, but it's not a true asset management plan. We try to look and start having discussions with staff to look at that 5-year horizon to manage workload and of course funding. But that's something that we are moving towards is to looking at. But as Chair Petrie or Mayor Petrie had said, it's really about trying to get that stabilization because that's where we're at.
Councillor Heyman?
If I can add to that, I think it also depends on legislative changes because a lot of the increases to meet the new service requirements. And I think we've talked about it before where there's development timelines that we're obligated to meet. And that's a lot of what this funding is going towards is to having the staffing and resources to turn around those proposals in the time frame that the province mandates. Otherwise, it was a cost of living adjustment. I think you look a lot at like without getting grants that was funded through reserves. So that's kind of a one-time adjustment. Doubling of capital, rents doubled, mortgages have doubled. I hope that doesn't happen again. But yeah, I think we're in a stable period moving forward, personally.
Any other questions? I have one. I sit on the Kettle Creek, so I know, it obviously is far less impact on Thames Center than Upper Thames, but did you have to raise considerably your park entry fees and all that sort of thing in order to try and beef up your self-generated funds?
Yes, we did look at that. We had actually made some increases to our park revenues a couple years ago. So again, it's that competitive nature as well, looking at adjacent CAs and what their fees are. I think it was probably the reverse in that Kettle is probably catching up to what our fees were in the past. But yeah, we look at those fees annually and look at kind of a comparison about what regionally services that we're providing to our campground, in our campgrounds and to our patrons, and then trying to make sure that what we're offering is in line with the fees needed or the costs truly and through fees to support that.
If I could just add to that as well, the difficulty is with the decision of the province where you can't cross over the different categories of funding. So category 3 cannot offset category 1. So we can raise our fees up quite a bit in the campgrounds. And I know staff are always looking for the value for the taxpayer that way because they're self-generated. But there's significant capital needs as well in the parks that we have to fund. But not being able to do that, as Tracy had mentioned earlier, with a lot of the grants are those kind of programs. The grants are available for category 3, whereas category 1 work, it's not as happy-go-lucky stuff, right? So that the funding is not as easy to get. So unfortunately, that shifted the burden on the municipalities more.
And I do know that when you're talking about dams, there's a significant issue with the Dalewood Dam too, so I understand. Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. At that point, then I wonder if I could have a motion and a seconder for someone to receive this presentation as information. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Motion carried. And thank you very much for coming here tonight.
Thank you for having.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, the adoption of the minutes. And mover and a seconder that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on December 11th, 2023 be approved as circulated, and that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on December the 11th, 2023 be approved as circulated. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Item number 7, the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be removed for further action. So unless there is anything being pulled, a mover and a seconder for items 7.1 through 7.8 be received as information. Councillor Lockie, moving, and a seconder. Councillor Heeman, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to reports of departments. 8.1, PWTS -001-24 Dorchester Road urbanization. And we're looking to the Director of Public Works to present this. So Mr. Craven, anytime.
Thank you, excuse me, thank you, your worship. Council report PWTS 001-24 Dorchester Road Urbanization Engineering. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval for authorizing staff to proceed with Spree Associates to complete the engineering required to upgrade Dorchester Road from its current rural cross-section to an urban cross-section design. At the same time, they complete the municipal drain design they've already been awarded. Combining these two projects would save funds as well as time wasted on overlapping of services that would occur by having two engineer firms working with the same project limit. This is definitely a rare opportunity. Excuse me, the estimate received from Spreets is under the approved budget, however, requires council approval because it's over the $100,000 threshold. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I'll turn this over to council then for any questions. Deputy Mayor Smyberg, sorry.
I agree with staff. I think that this makes a lot of sense to undertake this review. Just one question though. So the engineering would just be 2024. So we're looking at any capital works in 2025?
Through your worship, that would be in the 2025 budget for council approval for the construction portion of this.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, a mover and a seconder for a recommended motion as appended to the agenda. Deputy Mayor Smyberg and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. The next one I think is also Director of Public Works in this instance. Sifton petition request for drainage works, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, worship. Superintendent Pitt sends his regrets, rather, he couldn't make it the meeting tonight. PWDR 00124 Sifton petition request for drainage work. This request is for drainage work submitted by the owners of the Hawthorne subdivision, and they're looking to add their names to the already active municipal drain project known as the Dorchester Road Drain. Again, the same project that I just spoke of. This request is now the third land order request that council has received impacting Dorchester Road south of Byron Ave. Having all three developments, stormwater needs being addressed under one report provide an ultimate stormwater solution, not only for the developments, but also the municipal and county roads adjacent to these lands. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Craven. Any questions from the members of council? Probably pretty straightforward. A mover and a seconder then to accept the motion, the report from the drainage super. Yes. Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Item number 9, reports of committees. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be removed for further action. So we're looking for a mover and a seconder that the reports of committees on the agenda items 9.1 to 9.2 be approved as presented. Councillor Heeman? Oh, we have a question?
Yeah, I just want a point of clarification. If we approve 9.2, does that mean we are approving the requested, the requested sum for we're looking for a change in the schedule, the fundraising schedule. So does that require a separate motion, or by approving these minutes, are we therefore approving the change to the schedule?
Would
Through your worship, you can do it either way. It's up to council, but when you approve the recommended motion to approve it, then you are approving those resolutions by the committees.
Is that the $30,000? Is that the one you're talking about? That,
Pardon?
was there something specific with that?
Oh, just, the 7,000, like, so the original schedule was 10,000.
Right.
They've secured funding at the level of 7.5, which I think is good, is adequate for naming rights. And I don't believe we were able to find a title sponsor for the Dorchester at the $10,000 level. So I think there's not necessarily a precedent that we have to uphold in this instance.
Right. So with those comments, a mover and seconder for this particular motion as appended. Okay. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smybert. So all in favor then? Good. That motion carries. Thank you.
Your worship.
And yes,
Just if I may comment, by having this approved, then that will allow the committee to commence fundraising. So just if we are able to support them in any way with their fundraising activities, I think now that the schedule has been amended, they're able to go public with a communication strategy. So just as a point of information.
okay. That's noted then. Thank you. All right. So we have a mover and a seconder, and I believe we passed that motion, did we? Yes. Okay, thank you. So moving on to the mayor's report. Since council and the business of the municipality is just getting back to normal following the Christmas break, my report will be rather limited this evening. 2023 was something of a change year in Thames Centre, with a number of new staff members joining or replacing other individuals, all of whom are critical in helping council achieve their objectives for this term of office, as well as providing even better service to our residents. To highlight a few of the important items, council has passed the 2024 budget with moderate increase, developed a new strategic plan as part of our path forward, held a number of well-attended public information sessions to garner feedback from the community, and something that we will be continuing along in the year as we go through 2024. And particularly as we'll be navigating some growth in the area and the general direction of the municipality. And as always, your council is here to serve in the best way that we possibly can. And I believe that that is it for all that I have, excepting to say that we'll be making another report at the next meeting when the mayor's report is done. The CAO, Mr. Barrick, and I will be attending the Roma conference starting in Toronto on Sunday, January 21st. Meeting with a variety of different ministries, so we'll be making a report on that as well. And I think that that is all that I have in terms of the mayor's report. Any unfinished business? Notices of new motions? New business? Okay. So item number 14, bylaws. A mover and a seconder that bylaw 102-2023 be given third and final reading, and that bylaws 1/2024 through 6/2024 be adopted as presented. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. The next meeting will be Monday, January the 29th, 2023 at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers. And again, Monday, February the 12th, 2023 at 5 p.m. So that being said, I will look for a mover and seconder to adjourn. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Lockie. And the time for that to the clerk is 6:02 p.m. Thank you all very much for your attendance here tonight. See you next time.